And welcome to another edition of the ETBU Sportsnet. I'm Kenneth the K-Rock Klein, and on this edition, we are recognizing the top 20 or the top players in the 20-year history on the All-Time Tigers list for the past 20 seasons as ETBU football honors its 20th season. We are currently unveiling our top players. As I said, we're showcasing all the players on the position levels, and we're going to be talking to a former player today. We're talking defensive backs. And joining us, of course, is All-ASC defensive back Bobby Bruce. Bobby was part of the original team in 2000 and played with the Tigers from 2000 to 2003, where they won the conference championship, also made it to the NCAA playoffs as well. In 42 games, he recorded 248 tackles, 11 tackles for losses, had 7 interceptions, broke up 11 passes, recovered 6 fumbles, and forced 3 fumbles as well. Bobby, thanks for taking your time, and congratulations on making the all-time team list. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we talk about your football career, just give us an update as to what you're doing at this point. Talk about when you graduated from ETBU and what major it was in.
Okay. So I graduated in December 2004. I graduated with my bachelor's in business administration with the emphasis in marketing. And from there, I pursued my MBA at Dallas Baptist University. And so I graduated from there as well with my master's with emphasis in management. And I'm currently working as a business development manager for BJG Electronics. What they do is an interconnect and electromechanical supplier in the aerospace and defense industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So good to see that you're, doing well. So now let's talk about the first. Talk about your football career. Obviously, you started off as an original player. Just kind of a first question: what was it like to be a part of the first team in ETBU football history? Just kind of talk about how everything played itself out for that first season.
Okay, so it was very exciting to be part of something that was starting up after 50 years of not being in existence. So it was good to be able to set a foundation for the football program. And looking back and seeing where it is today, definitely was quite an accomplishment. But it was very exciting, to be a part of it. I think it was 13 of us that made it, from start to finish. So it's definitely quite an honor to be a part of that.
Absolutely. And 4 seasons later, 2003, of course, you actually won a share of the conference championship and made the NCAA playoffs. A key victory, of course, the key game was the overtime win against UMHB that ultimately was the deciding factor. But talk about that season, and especially that game in particular, and the feeling of knowing that in 4 years you went from being this new program to a team that's competing with among the nation's best.
So, yes, that was definitely a unique season. If you go back to the start of that season, as we reported into camp, before we even started any tour days or anything doing football, the coaches did with us the room with the view. And so I think we did 1 to 2 days, and it was strictly nothing but team building, talking about leadership. So I think we walked out of that with a sense of camaraderie, a sense of we were really a team, we were really unique. Going back to that room with the view, that was my first encounter with another gentleman that's been part of this Chad Glover. And from meeting Chad that day, during that time, I knew there was going to be something special about him. And so for that season, a great season for us to see where we had started in 2000, see where we were to compete in 2003. And specifically about the game with Mary Hardin Baylor, we were very confident going into that game. The year before, Mary Hardin Baylor had only beat us by 1, and we felt like we let them off the hook. So we were really confident going into that game that, hey, we can beat them, and knowing that not only did we have to beat them, we had to at least beat them by, I think, 7 points to be able to qualify, because it came down to kind of a point differential. So that game, it kind of epitomed what we had been through throughout that entire year, as well as just the entire time we had been in ETBU. That game had tons of ups and downs. It was very back and forth. Everybody had to step up and make plays, whether it was the receivers, such as Jabari Jackson, Earl, Earl made a lot of plays. Morris, Andrew Jackson, I think made a play. Even, going back to the quarterbacks, teamwork. Brandon Nelson, I believe, started the game, made some plays, and then Phil Van Cleef came in, made some awesome plays as well. So Littleton Dean stepped up, made, a big stop, I believe, on 4th down in overtime. So it was just a lot of, teamwork that got us through that. And I think if you go back to the beginning of the season, the team building things that we did really just embodied teamwork, made a big difference in that.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned Chad Glover, of course. Chad Glover, of course, also on the all-time Tigers team list for defensive lineman as well. So you and he are connected in another way, to say the least. So in your career, you were an all-ASC selection. You finished your career with over 200 tackles and was part of the history at ETBU. What does it mean to you for your career to not only be an all-time Tiger, but also, making history for the program?
It's a very humbling experience, just for the simple fact that, the talent that was on the team that I was on, as well as the talent that that has been on some of the teams that came through afterwards. So it's a very humbling and quite an honor just to be a part of that, because there's a lot of talent and a lot of that came through on our team. So, it's just, kind of speechless to a certain point, because I was very surprised to be a part of it. But, it's an honor for sure.
Absolutely. So, you talked about the Mary Hardin Baylor game as well, but what were some of your other favorite games that you can recall playing in?
So at that same time, I think Louisiana College was starting up, and I think the last 2 years, I think 2002 and 2003 season, we actually played Louisiana College in Independence Stadium in Shreveport. So kind of made it like a battle of the kind of state borderline kind of thing. And so playing in Independence Stadium, in a very large stadium, probably larger stadiums than any other Division III stadiums that we played in. So those, those stick out in my mind. Obviously, our first ever game against Southwestern Assemblies sticks out in my mind. I actually I returned a fumble, I believe, like the first defensive touchdown. So that sticks out as well. And the Mary Hardin Baylor game, obviously, for obvious reasons. And so not only did we get in the playoffs that year, we actually we hosted a playoff game against that year. And that was quite a game. I think it went in overtime. And it was a very high scoring, back and forth game. I say high scoring and I played defense, but unfortunately they did put up some points on us, but we did come out with the win. So that game sticks out, to be able to not only get into the playoffs, but actually win a playoff game. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So what impact as a whole did ETBU have on you, not just from an athletic perspective, but also from being a student and being a person there?
So it had a great impact on me. I mean, I grew up in the church, but to be able to go to a university that kept me grounded, with the Christian faith, and keep those same core principles that my parents raised me off of, that had a great influence, and to kind of grow off of the foundation that my upbringing brought me, that my parents brought me, to be able to, I know a lot of people, would frown and, having to go to chapel and those things, but it really was refreshing to be able to have that experience, to be able to go to chapel, to be able to take, Old Testament, New Testament. And one of my favorite courses throughout my time at ETBU was Christian ethics. And so just be able to take some of those things that I had already learned growing up, to just be able to continue to build off of that as I kind of grew up and developed while I was at college, definitely had a great influence on me.
It's been 17 years since you last put on a Tiger football uniform, but do you still keep in contact with some of your teammates to this day?
Yes, quite a few actually. I mean, it's some of them are still to this day some of my closest friends. I've been in some of their weddings. Many of them have been in my weddings. If not on a weekly text message thread, I mean, keep in contact via text or phone call with several of them. Whether Jabori and I were exchanging texts earlier this week. I had a phone call with Brandon Nelson this morning. So it's several. Greg Washington, I see and speak to on a regular basis. So it's several guys from that group that will be lifelong friends. So definitely.
Absolutely. So ETBU, of course, being a faith-based university, I think you said you grew up in the church.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. But how has God impacted you or used your time at ETBU to help you in your life?
So it has, as I think I, up into becoming a man at East Texas Baptist. So I'm a husband, I'm a father. So a lot of those core foundation core principles that I learned, throughout my time at ETB has definitely helped. Whether it's doing those things and mentoring to youth and young kids, and just kind of being a positive influence in their lives as well. Those kinds of things I've kind of grown and developed has been an influence on me as I've, entered into adulthood, I would say.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to put you on the spot as you're a recruiter, to say the least. So you're talking to a high school football player, and you're trying to get them to go to ETBU. What would you say to them, and why would you convince them, or how would you convince them that ETBU is the right place? What would you tell them?
So I would tell them, if first off, you have to have a genuine love for the game to play at ETBU, just from a football perspective. And and then from an educational perspective, you're gonna get a good, solid education that's gonna prepare you to be successful later in life. And also you're gonna get a good faith-based education while being able to play sports, and just the positive environment and the influence of being on that campus. It does wonders for your development. And again, you'll be able to have an opportunity to play, very competitive high level football while getting the education and keeping a good, core foundation.
Absolutely. One final question. Of course, we're still kind of dealing with these uncertainty of times right now, not only with the pandemic, but what's going on around the country as well. I always like to ask former ETB alumnus if they kind of have any words of wisdom to bring out to the viewers and also to the current students as well. Any words of wisdom that you want to bring out just for all of us to kind of take in?
Yes. So at times like these, it's very critical that you have a relationship with God, because with all the madness and is going on around us, just being able to just take a step back, prayer, having that faith that although things seem rough right now, no matter what you're going through, that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And if you're feeling alone and isolated, you always have a friend in Jesus. So just stay grounded in your faith, stay prayed up, and lean on those closest to you, whether it's family members, your friends, your college family. Lean on those people that keep you grounded, and and just know that we'll all get through this together. But it takes togetherness. So that would be.
Well, Bobby, congratulations once again on making it to the all-time Tigers team list. We respect for your career, and we wish you all the best in the future, and look forward to hearing from you soon.
Okay, thanks again for the opportunity. Thanks for having me, and I appreciate all that you guys are doing. This is awesome. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, that's Bobby Bruce. I'm Kenneth the K-Rock Klein. Tune in next time as we will unveil our next member on the all-time Tigers team list. Stay tuned.